my task is to go over our 2016 Antibiotic Symposium and review and survey, to give you a brief view of what we've done the last year from an Antibiotics Council and NIAA. First and foremost, last June, in between symposiums, last year was our 6th annual Antimicrobial Antibiotic Symposium. As we've moved along in that process, you can tell, and there'll be some quotes and feedback I'll give you in a little bit, that it's a very complex situation. Cyril can tell you after his meeting he had over in Paris in December just how complex even the alternatives can be, let alone the topics of antibiotics that we're dealing with on a daily basis. In that, we had stakeholders from animal health, human health, and government review the goals of the meeting, kind of give us a gut check and see where we're progressing. There's been a lot of talk on metrics, a lot of talk on management, a lot of talk on regulations, and this is before the VFD became final. So that was held kind of interim between the two to continue that dialogue going on all year long. If we look at the Antibiotics Symposium, Working Together for Better Solutions, held in Herndon, Virginia, last year in November. It was how many people were at that meeting in here? And so if I read one of your quotes from your surveys, I don't know you wrote it, okay? It's all blinded to me on that. But so we had, again, progressing our 6th annual symposium, progressing through with antibiotic stewardship and judicious use. We had panels by species, sector, government, retail leadership in all sectors, as well as consumer topics or presentations on consumer communications and perceptions, and then circle around to where we're going in the future, mainly focusing on a One Health initiative, a One Health type of program. Some key takeaways that came out of that meeting we'll cover here in just a second. First of all, we went back. One of the things we've done, if you've looked at the historical perspective of the symposiums, how many people have been to all 6 symposiums? How many people have been to 5 of them? 4, 3, 2, and 1. So we've all been some point in there. So if you've been to the majority of them, you know it's been a process on how we've tried to tackle this topic. We can't really eat the elephant in one bite. See, we've had to work through it, and with that, some challenges we've had in the past include how do we get all the stakeholders to the table. That's always been a big issue. We've had a lot of support from the CDC and USDA, have been there from the beginning. Well, not from the beginning. If you think back to the first symposium, which was held in Chicago, it was essentially our industry, NIAA, agriculture sitting around the tables talking about the topic. If we moved to the second one in Columbus, Ohio, we had one MD that came to that symposium and spoke for 30 minutes and left. We still had a great discussion. And as we moved to the Kansas City area, for a couple of years, we started to gain some momentum. And then moving it to Atlanta was to take it right to the heart of where CDC was, where the human health side was. And now we've progressed to a point where we're moving to getting the governmental side by moving to Washington, D.C. So it's been a step-by-step process, trying to add human health, trying to add retail, trying to add consumers, and we've been working on that. Each time we've done one of those, we've done a post survey post symposium, and if we look on how we did, we surveyed all 189 participants. We had about a 30% response rate. You can tell my typo there. With answering 17 questions. And so the first one is, are we getting the information out there to get them to the symposium or not? And so half of them heard it from a coworker or colleague that told them about the symposium. The other half, another third, had been to a previous antibiotic symposium. So having about a 38 to 40% retention rate on people attending, and building, I think that's pretty close to the number of people we asked on the colleague co-worker side. When I asked how many were first-time attendees at that meeting, about half the room raised their hand, and half were based out of local, whether it be out of Washington, D.C., that came to the meeting. So we had a good response. That's one thing we look at as we go forward. We'll keep it brief because I know we got a lot better speakers than me out there. Key takeaways that we had from this meeting that came out of our survey. The need for collaboration and One Health approach became evident. That's one of the ones they felt like when it came out of that meeting. Another one is, and kind of one that is really, we'll talk a little bit about later in our planning part, is the entire industry is trying to speak the same language and find common ground, but getting there is difficult to master. So, I mean, we have a lot of entities out there. One of the comments that I won't have here is that we actually have there'll always be ways that people can take the ability to use the information to gain financially. And so part of our discussion with these symposiums, and part of the great benefit of them is I hear quotes from the CDC, from USDA, from those entities that work in the government that don't want to have a hostile relationship, to have a conversation to get the information. This acts as a vehicle to get information to other stakeholders outside of our world, and it's been a great vehicle in that regard. We always have opposing views, and you notice that the MDs don't know what they're talking about and need to clean up their own acts before pointing fingers. In the same survey, and get the one, medical profession is taking responsibility. So there's always we always have differing perspectives and differing opinions every time we go into these meetings. And so the main thing is, and probably the key take home that we're getting to, is that much more consensus than 5 years ago. A lot more, we've opened the conversation. We have a dialogue. We have one aspect of this meeting was that we had 10 producers from Beef Checkoff there. I hope I said that right, Sarah. Okay, I did it wrong at the meeting, so I want to make sure I did it right this time. We had 10 producers from Beef Checkoff there that was part of their funded. They're funded to be there to talk to and be a part of the dialogue and the conversation. Those 10 producers to a T had different perceptions going in, kind of like this, and then went to here. One producer, in fact, said to me that he was scared to death. He was only going to have to defend how he raised cattle at that meeting. When he left, he said he learned a lot, and he had an open dialogue with members of the CDC, members of the Human Health Committee, had a better respect, that he actually gained more confidence in the way in his practices around antimicrobial use by being at that symposium. So you have a producer in the field that comes to the symposium, listens to this dialogue, and walks away with a better, more confidence in their practices. That tells you we're having the conversation we need to have from the perspective in NIAA.